Are you a fan of the Iron Sysadmin podcast? If you are, don't forget you can support the show via Patreon at patreon.com/IronSysadmin. Or you can buy merchandise at teespring.com/stores/IronSysadmin. And thank you. news, ops, and a little bit of paranoia. Welcome to the Iron Sysadmin Podcast. Welcome, everybody, to tonight's episode of the Iron Sysadmin podcast. I'm your host, Nate, and I'm joined by, we're back to basics here. I've got Jason with me, which you might remember, from all of the first episodes of this show before Uncle Marc became a regular. He's off traveling or something, believe it or not, in this world where everyone's afraid of being in contact with people. He actually gets to go visit a customer tomorrow, so he's not here because he's in a hotel or something. It's almost like normal. I don't know. And of course, these two faces you may or may not recognize. First of all, we've got the elf himself, Ed Scotus, here to talk about Holiday Hack. And, you want to give us a quick intro and then intro who you've brought along with you?
Sure. So my name is Ed. I am the director of cyber ranges with the SANS Institute. And part of my job is to lead up the creation of the SANS Holiday Hack Challenge every year. I've also taken over as the president of the SANS Technology Institute, which is the SANS College. We've got over 1,200 students working on bachelor's and master's degrees, and just exciting stuff all around. And I did ask Nate if we could have one of the great people on my team, Jared, to join us. Nate, did you want to introduce Jared?
Sure. So, you can probably introduce him as well as I can, but Ed asked very graciously if he could bring along one of his. What do you call yourself? Are you an engineer? Are you what's your title? Jared?
Yeah, senior engineer.
Senior engineer. Okay,
we
so
call
that's
him the Jared.
The Jared. All right. So Jared here works behind the scenes on Holiday Hack. I guess as of a couple months ago, you're brought in to basically keep the lights on. And since this is a show about keeping the lights on in a technology perspective, we figured he'd be a perfect guest for tonight's show to help kind of share how things work behind the scenes that you may not see, right? So,
yep. Jared truly is an iron sysadmin, and I respect sysadmins. I'm a security guy myself, but sysadmins keep the world going round, and I love being on the show every year with Holiday Hack launching, and I think Jared will be able to give you some great insights into how we do this thing and run it. He joined the team 5 months ago and has been focused on Holiday Hack technology, learning that, really improving it, streamlining it, so that we had our smoothest launch ever about, I'd say 19 hours ago. Knock on wood. So things are going great. So actually, no, it's more than 19 hours ago. It's 29 hours ago. I was off by 10.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So Jared's been doing great, and really he spun up fast and really hit the ground running. So thanks for agreeing to be on the show, Jared.
So
hey, thanks for inviting me.
That's pretty great. So I guess the place I wanted to start for. Basically, one, because there could be people watching that don't know what the Holiday Hack is. So maybe we'll just start there. What is the SANS Holiday Hack? Whichever one of you is better suited to answer that question.
I'll go ahead and get started. And Jared, you want to fill in the blanks? Okay.
Perfect.
So SANS Holiday Hack Challenge is many things. First, we try to create a really fun environment for people to build their hands-on technical skills. It's cybersecurity skills, but there's a lot of sysadmin mixed in with that. And let's face it, the two go hand in hand. If you don't know cybersecurity, it's hard to be a good sysadmin. If you don't know fundamentals of sysadmin, it's hard to do cybersecurity in a technical way very well at all. So we kind of bring both of those worlds together in a series of fun holiday-themed challenges. So it's challenges. It's a game. It's also a virtual world that people can interact with each other. You get these little avatars and they hop around inside of Santa's castle, or this year they can go into Jack Frost's tower, and you interact with elves and trolls, and they kind of help you and give you hints and tips. So it's a learning environment with a virtual world where you can interact with other players. So it's got a social aspect to it as well. There's also a weird kind of twisted storyline where Jack Frost is trying to destroy the holidays, and you have to figure out what his nefarious plan is and help defeat it so that you can save the holiday season. So we got that going for us. And it's also, it's full of art drawn by amazing cartoonists and such, and music. We have some amazing music. We release a new album every year. I mean, yesterday when we launched, we released a new album of 10 songs of various kinds. Some of them are more rock and roll. Some of them are more techno. So it's all those different elements put together in a scalable format such that, last year we had 19,000 people play. And we're hoping for that this year, or maybe even more. So I do hope all of your listeners and followers will give it a shot. I think they'll get a chuckle out of it, a little laugh here and there. We try to make it fun and funny and also social so you can interact with other people. So Jared, fill in the blanks that I missed.
Okay, fill in the blanks. Yeah, I think from the back end perspective, it's been interesting to invite people into your systems to hack, right? And there's a set of challenges there that we're faced with. But when you do that, when you say, "Hey, go have fun," stuff breaks. And so to come in with the hat of how do you maintain highly resilient systems inside of an infrastructure where you are inviting people, and this is very different, right, from the background of where even I was at my career, where I'm trying to keep everybody out. Now I'm trying to invite everybody in, and yet not so in that everything falls over. And so a couple spots that are critical for us are containers. Containerization is a huge thing. And how we do that is pretty elegant, where we can allow our developers to wrap all the challenges up into containers and then ship those images off to a registry. And then we can pull those down, bake images of our hosts, and put them up into the cloud and spin them up and scale them inside of Google instance groups. And yeah, so a big thing I think that you all might like there is just the instance groups concept. Have you used that before, Nate or Xenophage, in the cloud?
No, I haven't.
I don't think I understand the concept, I think, but feel
Yeah,
free to elaborate there.
Yeah. It's like a giant bucket, an array, right? And you can have one host behind it, or you could have 20. And very generally speaking, it's pretty hard to manage because you want some elasticity there. Because you want to scale, or you want to bring things down when you don't need to provision those that many hosts. And so graciously, I think Ed worked with Google, and they sponsored this event, and so they've been really helpful. But without them, also, honestly, the load balancer has been just a huge win for us. So it manages our certificates, it sits in front of the challenges, and we can spin up hosts on the fly, tear them down on the fly, and if we see a sick host, one that somebody has done some mischief off, we can pull that one out and try to review it and shove something in there. So decoupling those kind of interfaces is really, really critical for us, and has been a huge win. I think that's a big piece to where we had an issue last night and nobody felt it. And Ed, asked me like, okay, so is there a problem? I'm like, no, nobody knows. It's 2 sick hosts out of n number of hosts we have. So a huge win.
Our Slack channel, there's all this discussion. Oh my gosh, this is going on, and this and this and this. And I'm like, should we bring it down? Is it impacting users? And Jared's like, no, it's just like 2 or 3 instances. Nobody's on them. It's fine. I'm like, okay.
This is all fine. This is all fine. Yeah, and that's exactly where you want to be as a sysadmin. You would be like, yeah, things are broken. Nobody cares. No one knows.
Yeah. And we'll fix them. We have time. Yeah.
We'll fix them later.
Yeah.
It's all good. It's what you said there about being a sysadmin and then having to change mindsets to let people try to break a system. That really resonated with me because a couple years ago, well, guys, it's like 7 years ago now, DerbyCon had this Hack Your Derby challenge.
Yep.
And I had this crazy idea to build a CTF challenge in a derby, right? So like Raspberry Pi inside of my hat, and I had the same thing, right? It's like I have this little tiny computer. Yeah, Jason was.
We
part
got
of it
one
the
here.
1 year.
Oh yeah.
Mine are up on a shelf over here. I've still got all of them. But
cool.
But the problem was like I had this tiny little computer. I was using a Raspberry Pi A at the time, if you remember those.
Oh yeah.
They were like, I don't know, 128 meg or 256 meg of memory. They were tiny little machines.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how am I going to host services on this that people don't just destroy them? And containers is exactly where I landed too, right? And that's the platform I used for the Hack Your Derby, like all the way up until the end of DerbyCon, right? So it's pretty cool stuff.
Nice.
So last year was a weird year. I mean, generally, like globally, it was. If anyone doesn't know what I'm talking about, then
something
you've been under a rock somewhere.
Yep.
But and all of us, because we couldn't go outside, right? We started doing stuff online, and then as that year went on, people got more and more burned out on simply being at a computer, right? So I'm kind of curious. I know that your challenge and the participants generally grow from year to year as
Yeah.
popularity grows and whatnot. Do you feel like you got the expected growth last year? Was it lower than you expected? Was it higher than you expected? Like,
Yep.
do you feel
Yeah.
like the pandemic at all affected
I
the?
think it did. So last year we did two things that that really kind of impacted stuff. One was, when the shutdowns first happened, right? It was what, March and April, and
Hmm.
people were really depressed. We actually ran a mini holiday hack challenge in May.
Oh,
So in May of 2020, it was only 5 challenges. We put it together in 3 weeks and rolled it, and we had 5,000 people show up, and that,
that's
that
pretty
that was
cool.
fun and it was good. And we ran it once, just to get people sort of something to do while locked down. So that might have aided in getting the message out a little bit more. So when December rolled around, we did our holiday hack challenge, the full blown thing. We didn't reuse the 5 stuff from earlier. We got rid of those and had all new. And there were still some lockdowns. The UK was pretty hard lockdown last Christmas season, and various lockdowns around the world. So we ended up last year. Our holiday hack in December ended up. It was up about 25-30%. Which makes this year even more interesting because there's fewer lockdowns this year, right? I mean, things are much more opened up, thankfully for that. Um, I would like to see our numbers go up higher, so please do play. Even if you can only be in for 15 minutes, please do just check it out, have fun, because we want to help people. This is a gift to the community. Um, but we'll see what happens. With less lockdowns than last year, it's possible our numbers might go down, but I want to be an optimist and kind of see them go up. And we're trying to reach, wider audiences. There are, you know, college clubs that play this. There are high school kids that play this. There are junior high kids that play this. That's not to say it's simple. I mean, there are challenges in it that are really easy, and even kids are playing. I think Jared's kids have played, which is kind
Oh,
of
I got a
fun.
story lined up when you're
Oh,
ready.
great, great, awesome. Then also, I got to say, some of the finest cybersecurity professionals and sysadmins in the world play this. There are people inside the NSA, the FBI, Japanese law enforcement. I mean, just around the world, all the militaries and such that participate in this. And we try to have challenges that are commensurate with all of those different skill levels, from very, very newbie all the way to the most elite in the world. My favorite, though, is to watch the kids having fun in it.
So that's a really a great segue. I had a, I mean, we're kind of jumping around the
It's all
outline
good.
that I had made, but whatever. That's how this show goes. Who is like who are the people you picture to come play? Just anybody, or do you have like an ideal person in mind? Like this is the person we make the holiday hack for.
No, we want to go very broad and
Yeah.
very wide. So we don't have that. In fact, we try to break out of that mold of just saying, okay, this is a standard cybersecurity professional. It's like what are skills that we think are important for people to know now? Skills that kind of get them on the path to doing capture the flags, as well as things inside of CTFs that no one has ever done before. For example, this year we have an FPGA challenge, and you have to design and implement an FPGA, and we give you a little virtual chip that implements your FPGA, and you've got to plug it in to do something to achieve one of our challenge goals. As far as I know, no one's done a CTF with an FPGA in it. And we've got a lot of other stuff that's new. Server-side request forgery, SSRF. We're starting to see that turn up more in our pen tests, especially of cloud environments. So I haven't seen it before, but SSRF is part of a capture the flag. It's kind of cool. Um, we have all kinds of different technologies we're experimenting with. I mean, there's tried and true stuff. There's TCP dump, IPv6. We've got a Kerberoasting challenge this year for attacking Microsoft Kerberoast. There's a whole variety of different technologies that are in it. Um,
You can't have
so,
a
so
CTF if it doesn't attack Microsoft. It's got to be
yeah,
in there somehow.
yep. So we don't try to focus on a single individual person or skill set, but instead something very broad. We created a mini game this year, which actually encourages people to play together. We call it Holiday Hero, and you have to push keys that indicate which musical notes are falling down from the sky, kind of like that other hero game.
Yeah.
But we built the game in such a way. This was Chris Davis from our team's idea. He wanted to make it so that it's multiplayer. So 2 people have to play at the same time. Now you can hack it and script things up so you don't have to have another player. But if you want to invite somebody else and make friends in the game, then you can have them both play. And Jared, does that?
Oh yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, so we're all hanging out, and Davis has made this 2-player game, and so he's thinking, to encourage people, I'm gonna hang out by the game and just play with them. And we're all super busy, and I hear him say, "Man, this is like the 10th time I've played this game with this person." He's like, "I'm kind of getting tired." And
this
so
this was an hour after launch yesterday.
Oh yeah, just on repeat, and I'm not paying attention. And then somebody says, "Well, who is it? What's the username?" And Davis says the username, and I look up and I'm like, "Wait, what?" I said, "That's my kid." And so yeah, I told Davis that my wife carried the bot for 9 months. We grew the bot for 10 years just so he could show up and test his software for him.
Yes. That's it. He's a testing bot. So the conference, or I should say the challenge, is around a conference again, right? Like you've done for the past couple of years. You have like, I guess they're more like a live stream. They're not quite a live presentation, but people can log in and watch presentations again.
Yep, we have about a dozen presentations, and it's called KringleCon. So KringleCon is another piece of Holiday Hack Challenge where it's a series of talks. They're all recorded in advance, but they're really wonderful talks. They're short-form talks, 12 to 18 minutes long, because people don't have time these days.
Right.
And they're really great talks by amazing speakers, and many of the talks, not all of them, but many of them will help you solve the challenges in the Holiday Hack Challenge. We really view this more as a learning platform than a challenge or CTF. It is a challenge in CTF, but it's the learning that we're focused on. There's hints. The elves love to give you hints. You can watch the videos. They're full of hints. But this year, it's not just one conference. I mean, it's been KringleCon for years. The last 4 years have been KringleCon. And this year, Jack Frost has decided that he wants to one-up Santa Claus. So what he did is he bought up all of the land around Santa's castle and built this enormous tower. It's way bigger than Santa's castle. And he's hosting a conference there called Frost Fest. And the goal of Frost Fest is to extinguish KringleCon and to just one-up it, outshow it, to make Santa just give up in desperation. And part of what the players have to do is to solve these various challenges to try to defeat Jack Frost. You see, it all makes sense, sort of. It's kind of funny because Jack Frost issued a call for papers for his conference, and nobody responded except for one person. So Jack was a little bit frustrated because he only has one talk for his conference. So what he did is he went in and pirated all of the talks from KringleCon. So if you go into Frost Fest, and you go into any of the speaking rooms, which you'll see, with the exception of one talk, all the other talks look like they're filmed on a VHS, camera, and the video's kind of jumpy and not all that great, and they're KringleCon talks, except for one, and that's Jason Blanchard's talk. He was the only person that responded to the Jack Frost call for paper. So,
but is it a good talk?
It's a great talk. It's how to find a good mentor. It really is a fantastic talk.
That's an important thing.
Yep, I thanked him for the talk, and so did Jack Frost. So, but you can see Jack Frost's efforts at piracy were pretty lame. Wow. And he did copy a lot of stuff from KringleCon, and he did it in a ham-fisted fashion. So, yeah.
So all that. So basically, you can log into the Holiday Hack Challenge. Go to KringleCon, maybe Jack Frost's competing conference, and watch this content. You can talk to the elves and learn things. There has to be some base level of knowledge walking into the place in order to feel like you can actually get something done. Is there some, like, I know that's really hard to judge, but is like if someone's listening to this and they're like, I don't think I can do that, what would you say to them?
So first off, we did something new this year, and there's an orientation. When you first get into the game, we kind of force you to talk to this elf, so you can see that mechanic of talking to an elf. You click on the elf, and then the elf will tell you to pick up something. It's a Wi-Fi adapter. So you have to walk over, pick up the Wi-Fi adapter. Then the elf will show you how one of our terminals run. So you click on this terminal, and a screen shows up in your browser, and you have to type into the terminal. And then once you've done the orientation, the gates open and you can walk into the North Pole. So we have that orientation thing for people that are new. There's also a fantastic person. Her name is Mary Ellen Kennel, Kennel, Mary Ellen Kennel. And she has created a cheat sheet that she publishes every year of tips for the Holiday Hack Challenge. Her Twitter handle is icanhaspie, ICANHAS. I think it's PI, or it might be PII. I'm sorry, I don't have that memorized, but it's something like that. It's Mary Ellen Kennel. So she's got tips and tricks in a nice, couple of pages of her hints. And then the other thing is the elves. The elves are desperate to help you. So you click on the elves. They're pretty easy to spot, and they will give you hints. Now, Jack Frost doesn't have elves. Santa has the elves. Jack Frost has trolls. And while the trolls are grumpy, they're there to help you too. I mean, they're the analog of Santa's elves. Also, as you get deeper in the game, you find the trolls aren't all that they seem, and you start to learn more about the backstory of Jack Frost. By the end of this, if you're able to get far enough into this game, you will learn why Jack Frost is the way that he is and where he came from. So that's where this whole narrative is headed.
Interesting. There's always a plot twist every year.
Is, always.
And you always got to look forward to that.
And if you're watching, she's in the chat and just posted her cheat sheet.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, awesome. That's so
Hey.
Did you ask her, did I get your Twitter handle right? I'm sorry. I
can has pie.
Yep. 2 eyes or 1 eye?
Pie with 2 eyes.
2 eyes? Thank you.
Yep.
Sorry, Mario.
So, Jason, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I have not had a chance to log in and look at the challenges at all, and I know you have, at least briefly. You got anything you wanna bring up? Anything to talk about? You've got them right here. You can try to get hints out of them. You try to force.
No,
some,
no, I haven't. I have not played. I had not played long enough to get hints out of them. I mean, I banged my head against one or two challenges already, and hints aren't. I mean, the only hint you can give me is the answer, and that's no fun. But so far it's been. I've definitely seen the upgrades from last year. There's a bunch of different types of challenges, plus, there's like more interactive playgrounds, I guess. The Python thing was new.
We did it last year in JavaScript. This year it's in Python. We call it elf code. So it's a tutorial on coding, and you have to move this little elf around and make them achieve things. It's a real fun one, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sort of like Turtle.
It is, yeah.
From
I remember
way back. I'm probably dating myself now.
Yep, me too.
Yeah, it's definitely fun. There was what was the other one I played? I probably spent most of my time doing that because it was fun. There was a little game where you move a little guy around a box, and you choose. In the one that I was playing, you're choosing. Yeah, Logic Chomper.
That's a fun one.
Choosing things that were binarily true, based on the expression. So that was fun. So yeah, it's definitely been interesting. I'm told that as we were talking earlier, that I can get over into Jack Frost's area. All I have to do is go right. So the first thing I did when I got into the game was go left.
Which is fine.
So I haven't quite made it over there yet.
All the elves on the left, though, tell you, I don't know what's going on over there, but you better watch out because they're trying
to... Yeah, they have.
Yeah.
So I went left and all the way around, and I've kind of got on a loop now.
They told you to watch out, so you did. You listened. Right? Okay, I won't go over there. It sounds dangerous.
By virtue of wandering. Yeah, like I play Skyrim, and I didn't get to the first mission until I'm like 10 hours into the game. So
it's all good. Have fun with it. Really have fun with it. And one of the things we want almost everyone to do is to get inside Jack Frost Tower, because there's a lot of special magic inside there, and you have to defeat him from within his tower. But the door is frozen shut. So you get there and you can't walk in. And there's a troll standing outside, and he's like, hey, what happened? Jack Frost froze the door shut. But if you look in the window, I don't want to name the vendor, but you'll see this sort of round thermostat with a blue circle in the middle of it. And it's blue because it's so cold. And it turns out it supports Wi-Fi. And, you have to melt the door by using the Wi-Fi adapter in your badge to get through it. But I do hope your listeners do try that, because first of all, it's just fun to do and really neat. IWconfig, IWlist, they're your friends. IWlist first, then IWconfig. And then once you get inside there, you'll start to see Jack's nefarious plot manifest itself.
You see, you talking about the round thing on the wall, and I thought you were going to go down the path of one of the colorful assistants that we have these days.
Well, I mean, you can control the little round nondescript thermostat on the wall via that assistant who's listening right now as we speak.
Yeah. Don't say the word too loudly. Is that what?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well,
Right.
every time I'm on a call with Larry Pesci from the Paul Security Weekly podcast, he always tries to get. We call her Alice around here, so she doesn't trigger. He tries to get her to order very large quantities of rather obscene things for me.
The old
55
the old
55
55 gallon joke.
quantities?
Yeah.
Well, you know Larry. Apparently, you know Larry quite well.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So, all right. So,
And I was just going to chime in too.
Sure, go ahead.
Like we, you know, my wife or I, we're obviously playing as a family, right? One of us is, you know, signed up and there with our children. But I think there's a huge family element as somebody new to the team, just watching what the team has built, and then having your, you know, kids or even your spouse just come down and like nod, like this is awesome, like having a good time, and they're progressing, you know, pretty far, and it's just, you know, it's really cool to be a part of.
That's so good to hear. And one of the things, you know, I want your audience to make sure they understand is we really try to make this family friendly. There is, you know, we try to make sure there's nothing offensive in it, nothing obscene, nothing, you know, overtly political or, you know, I mean, we're really careful and sweat the details on that. And we do kind of push on each other saying, you know, this turn of phrase, while clever, it's not right for us. My son did one of the main songs for this year's Holiday Hack, and he recorded it, and it was really cool, but it's like these lyrics are not good for us. They're a little too racy, so we had to rewrite the lyrics of his song so that it could fit into the game. And he was okay with doing it. I had to pay him extra, but we had to change his lyrics out. And we did that while preparing Thanksgiving dinner, so he and I rewrote the lyrics for his song, and I'm proud of it. I think it came out quite nice. And then Count Ninjala, who goes by Ninjala these days,
Yeah.
he did so much great music for us this year. The guy is a genius. He did a version. You know the old song, I Want a Hippopotamus for Christmas?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so you know that song. Not a lot of people know it. It's a great song. He did a version of us that sounds like it's Strawberry Fields Forever, but it's I Want a Hippopotamus for Christmas. It is mind-bending. It is wonderful. He did a version of All Your Bass Are Belong to Us, that old techno song. It's called All Your Christmas Are Belong to Us. So he really did some very precious music for us this year.
So before we started recording, you mentioned that the album is a little more epic than usual this year.
Yeah.
You want to talk a little bit about that? I mean, you already kind of started.
Sure. Yeah, so we in 2015, that was the first time we launched with a music in a virtual world. And we actually licensed from 8-Bit Universe their music. So it was already pre-existing music. We couldn't release an album because they had already done that. But that got us on this idea of, hey, we could put together an album of music and release it for free with this. So I was talking with some friends who are DJs, and they said, oh, there's this guy named Count Ninjala. He's really good at this kind of stuff. Maybe you should reach out to him. So I contacted him. And in 2016, we put out, you could call it an EP or a mini LP or something like that. It was 6 songs. But they were all done with an electro swing style and really quite nice. And then in 2017, we got Dual Core and Ninjala involved. We also had Keith Myers, who's a DJ, great DJ in the hacker community. 2018 again, 1920, and so forth. We got my son. He did a song for us last year because he's got like 3 bands and such. So this year, we had so many different rooms, so many different playgrounds, as Jason referred to. We have 10 songs that are brand new this year, and I think it's some of the highest quality stuff we've put together. Plus, there's 10 classic songs from previous years, including Mary Ellen Kennel's amazing version of I Wish I Could Be Santa Claus. It is hauntingly beautiful. And we re-released it this year because it was so good last year. We want more people to be able to hear it, and it's featured inside of Santa's Castle. But you don't have to play the game to listen to the music. It's all freely downloadable as MP3s. If you go to sans.org /holiday hack. And then you could download all that music. It'll be available in all of the streaming services in between 1 to 5 days. If you put your music on streaming services, they do some magic or something. They vet it, and it takes 1 to 5 days for it to be boosted. So we loaded it into the streaming services last night around midnight. So it's coming any day now on the streaming services. But you can download it before then, or just experience in game.
Yeah, I've been picking out the songs that I like from Holiday Hack from years past, and they're in my permanent Christmas playlist, right alongside Trans-Siberian Orchestra and all of the the usual not quite mainstream but fun Christmas music. So yeah, the stuff from 2016 that Ninjala did, that was the first Holiday Hack I participated in, and all of that music just, I don't know, it just brings back like all of these memories of I don't know. There was something special about that year for me, probably because it was the first year I did it. But he's queuing something up back there.
So, Holiday Hack 2016. I was listening to you, Nate,
yeah.
And I love the fact that you loved it. But I loved it so much. My team had made up for me for a holiday present in 2016. This is a '78 record that plays on an old Victor phonograph.
That's awesome.
Of Sugar Plum Fairies, which Ninjala did for us. It's Ninjala's version of that on black vinyl, '78 format, and it's a treasure. It's really a treasure.
I can't imagine how that style of music would sound coming out of a legit phonograph.
Well, if you want to give me a minute, I'll play it for you.
Right.
So ask Jared an interesting question, and I'll get this to play. Okay.
Well, I guess this actually does bring up an infrastructure-related question that I actually did have in the thing here, right? So we talked a little bit last year about just kind of the infrastructure around. I'm just kind of curious, now that you're on staff, and I'm sure you've probably brought some new ideas, I would think. What's really, like, are there any major differences in the way what have you improved, what have you changed about how the hosting side of things are working for Holiday Hack?
Yeah, I think... first off, just thanks to Daniel. He's the predecessor, and he a brilliant dude. So, and he met with me several times and didn't have to, and so we got to bounce ideas off of each other. I do see often. Even myself have a tendency to go to the new shiny, and Daniel and I were talking about some ideas that I was chewing on, and I think. Something that's a skill set of mine is being able to reduce, much like music, right? Trying to simplify. And so in some ways, I've pulled apart what Daniel did in a couple key areas and tried to reduce that and simplify that down to a stack that's easier to hopefully hand off to my peers, right? So I can go, do Christmas with my family type of thing. So
that's the key.
I think there's a lot of those ideas from a big scale technical aspect. That load balancer seems to have been a big win for us. And then just scripting all that out in a way, it's funny because if you put the work in up front, sometimes you're pretty tired going into a launch, but it seems to have always paid off for me. And so one of them has been being able to quickly rebuild our those terminal challenges in a way that isn't too painful. And I could not get it to work for a while, and I spent a little bit of time on it, and finally was able to get to where I had it. And I'm like, I looked at this code. I'm thinking, I don't know if I'm ever going to use it. And yeah, we've already used it several times. And I'm just like, I'm so thankful that as a feature set that this thing exists because it was worth the investment. So yeah, I don't know if that helps you, but some of those ideas simplify. And then if you see an idea and you really just in your gut know you have to have it, I pushed myself and Ed saw me and I built that thing pretty quick.
Yeah, and so Daniel was instrumental in building this stuff up front. Jared took it over very smoothly, helped to optimize it, and we should also mention Evan Booth.
Mm-hmm.
Evan has just a great software architect. Building all those client-side and server-side stuff. He's also an artist and did a lot of the artwork in this. So we're a small team. Our whole shop is 11 people, and the team works really hard to build Holiday Hack Challenge. We do have some artists on the outside. Obviously, Ninjala is, he's somebody we contract with. And, we have a great character artist in the UK. Her name is Annie Royal. She drew all of our elves and trolls and Jack Frost and such. And we have challenge writers that are volunteers. This year we got a great challenge on Ducky script that was written by Kevin Tyers. That's the scripting language for the rubber ducky little malicious payload USBs. We had a guy named Josh Levine who wrote a challenge for us on blind SQL injection. It's awesome. I love it. And we've had a few other, volunteer challenge developers and such. So it's, our team is sort of the centerpiece of this, but we're very reliant on those other people that bring their pieces to the table to help us get this thing out the door. So do you want to hear Ninjala's version of Sugar Plum Fairies played
Sure.
on
I don't know how we can not now that you've talked it up and you've
Now the device it's playing on is from 1904, okay?
Yeah.
And the record itself was made in 2016. So let's see how this will work. I'm gonna aim it over here and get it ready to go. Take this guy out. He's sound muffling.
I was gonna say that would.
It's a virtual gerbil, a stuffed animal gerbil. Can you hear it?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I think this is a first for your show.
I honestly can't. I don't know if the viewers can hear this. I hope it comes through in the recording, but
Yeah. And those little pops and stuff in there, that's actually from the record itself.
yeah, right. Well, I mean, that's how they were, right?
That's how they were, yeah.
There may very well be people that watch or listen to this show that have never legitimately heard a record play.
Yeah, that's true.
Because that's
Oh man, and you can still hear it going.
That's pretty awesome.
It's got sort of an eerie thing about it.
That is kind of eerie. Wow.
Well, I'm gonna go turn it off so we can talk some more.
So while he's messing with that, we have a couple of viewer questions.
Yes. If you
see.
can get to them, that's great because it's up here
Yeah.
on this other display. I can't even really read it from where I'm standing. So.
Yeah, I've
First
got
world
12
problems when you have
displays.
so many displays and they're so big you can't even read them.
So,
No, I literally have a TV on the wall that I put Streamlabs up on.
Oh, nice.
And that's where the chat is, right? I don't really have to interact with it much, but I need to be able to see it. That's why it's
Yeah,
up there.
yeah.
So anyway.
Cool.
So, Holon Network wants to know what is the youngest age of the players. I don't know if you guys
Well,
collect that info, but
We don't ask ages. It's legally complex to ask that kind of stuff. I do know in the past some 5-year-olds have played, some 7, 9-year-olds. Jared mentioned his 10-year-old, right, Jared?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So there are kids, and some people will take photos of their kids sitting in front of the Christmas tree, having milk and cookies, in their jammies, playing Holiday Hack Challenge. I love to see those pictures in Twitter. That's the highlight of my year. So there are some rather young kids that play. I would say sort of more mainstream play would be junior high or high school. And then certainly the vast majority of the people who play are professionals. It's not a kids thing.
Yes.
It's all dressed up in this sugary, wonderful, fun
Yeah.
holiday experience. But the degree of the technology as you get in there, you're going to be doing Kerber roasting, blind SQL injection. You have to do OSINT on things. You're going to be writing shell code, and then you finish it up by creating your own field programmable gate array, FPGA. So there's some Splunk stuff in there, strace and ltrace, nmap. I mean,
did
this
that one
thing-
today.
Yeah,
Really?
cool. Yeah. There's so much. So yeah, just because it's all dressed up with Santa Claus and stuff, don't trivialize it. There's a lot of really cool things in here.
If anybody
there
has
are definitely.
If anybody has a
Go ahead,
10-year-old or younger that manages to finish all of these challenges on their own, we want to hear from you. I don't know if we could have your kid on the show because that seems like it would be fraught with peril, but I'd love to hear about that.
But the point is, don't go in expecting to do the whole thing. Go in expecting to have some fun and learn a few things.
Yeah.
And then if you get into it and want to stick with it, please do. But yeah, we try to write it so that if you can only give us 15 minutes, you'll have fun and learn something. If you can give us an hour or 2 or 3 or 4, hey, that's fine. You know, we write it so that it's casual, that you play during the holidays. It's not timed in the sense that if you finish it faster, that doesn't make you the winner or anything like that, right? The game is a competition from launch, which was yesterday, up until January 4th, in that you have to win it and enter your answers for us to select the best for a prize. The thing that makes you win is finishing it, yes, but not finishing it fast or even finishing it particularly elegantly, but it's whoever has the best write-up. So we're trying to make people write it up and express their ideas, and then we release the best answers as the official answer, which is two things. One is the people who write up the best answers are giving back to the community because they're creating the official answers, and then we don't have to write the official answers ourselves.
That's a way to do it.
Exactly. We crowdsource the answers. So, and the grand prize is a Sans class, a free Sans class.
That's cool.
Yeah, and there are definitely. I mean, I know there are younger kids that play this, and some of them are scarily good at some of the stuff. So that they're definitely out there. Let's see. J Scar wants to know if this is mobile friendly.
Not exactly. You know, there's a lot of terminal stuff that happens, and mobile terminals suck. Even the best of them aren't very good. And you say, but I've got one. It's like, no. You know, control all this and that. Hit function 12, right? Right. So, you know, it'll come up in your mobile device, but the true experience, there's a lot of web-based stuff where you're going to need like developer tools in your browser, and good luck with that on mobile. So it's designed for, you know, a full computer system. That said, you know, Jared was saying his kids are playing on a Chromebook, I think, today. And, you know, so it is playable on those smaller type platforms. That said, to really engage with the challenges, you're going to need an actual browser on an actual computer.
What version of Flash did you need?
Flashless. This is, there's no Flash, thankfully. No
so it's all HTML5, right?
Yes. Yes, and a lot of CSS and JavaScript, and modern. It's a modern platform. It really is. Good question on Flash. Zero.
Yeah, you joked, but Evan and I were talking about his Flash days as far as ActionScript. You know, we were reminiscing.
Wow.
I worked for a company, and the day that Flash was discontinued and it time bombed itself, we had a major outage.
Oh man!
And there was a lot of scrambling and running around and screaming and yelling. And you know, I finally found out what was going on, and I'm like, what's broken? They're like, Flash doesn't work anymore. I'm like,
how did you not know that?
How is it mission critical?
I've used Flash in years.
Yeah. Oh boy.
Flash doesn't work anymore. So I actually do see one up here, and this is actually one that was rumbling around in my head as well. I know, and this really comes from, you know, the platform I talked about that I worked on that Derby hat. We had a scoreboard, and we had kind of just a general platform that I have now shared with the community, right? I'm part of a DEF CON group. We do a pub crawl every year where we have a CTF, and we've taken the same platform that I've used on the little Raspberry Pis on the Derby, and now we put them in little things that are at pubs, right? And then there's a scoreboard, and I'm actually working on cleaning all that up so I can release it to the public. So that's not just me and this DEF CON group that can use it, but anyone who wants to have this little portable CTF, right? All that to say is the question is the stuff you're working on, the platform, whatever you're doing, are you open sourcing any of this code so that others can then use it? Or is it either not ready for that or unable to be shared in that way?
So we get this question a lot, and I appreciate the question. I really do. We have not open sourced the platform. We made it ourselves, but the reason for not open sourcing it is not out of selfishness. It's out of, we don't have the cycles to support it. And people will always say, well, you don't have to support it. Oh,
yeah, you kind of do.
Yeah, you have to, or you're a jerk. Right?
Yeah.
You release this code and you won't support it?
Yeah.
Well, I have a solution to that problem. I won't release the code, right? So I would like to at some point, but like I said, we're a small shop that does Holiday Hack for free. I mean, our company, CounterHack, we do pen testing and we develop cyber ranges for SANs so we can keep the employees employed, right? People have to eat. We do Holiday Hack as a labor of love for the SANS community. And I sometimes joke, every year about CounterHack. CounterHack exists to make Holiday Hack. Everything else we do is so that we can feed our families while we're working on Holiday Hack. So everything else is just gravy on top. But we do a lot of pen testing. We learn a lot from pen testing that we put into Holiday Hack. But because of that, and we run a fairly lean shop here, Jared can attest to that, we don't have a lot of cycles to refine the code, release it, and then the most important and difficult thing is to support it over time, because people will run into bumps in the road saying, hey, this doesn't work. How do I fix it? How do you fix it? Can you add this feature? Maybe someday. We did a bunch with Browser Quest. The Holiday Hack 2015 and 2016 ran in Browser Quest. Then in 2017, we started developing our own engine because we had pushed Browser Quest to its limit and beyond. And maybe we could release the Browser Quest extensions that we had created. But even then, that wouldn't give you the full, 2021 Holiday Hack experience.
Yeah,
and we're adding. We add so many
you-
features every year. Oh, I'm sorry.
Is Browser Quest is Browser Quest even a thing that's released or supported anymore? That was a
I don't
Mozilla
even know.
project, wasn't it? I think.
Yeah, last time we used it was 2016.
Yeah, I had poked around with Browser Quest after the Holiday Hack Challenge, in fact, because I thought it was a fun little platform and I wanted to see where it came from. And I actually played through, I think, the whole game. To be honest, it's not a very. It's actually like a browser-based RPG, which is a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun to play through.
Yeah.
But
so we would love to support it as a platform and release it publicly. It's not like we're trying to keep things away from people, but it's the support costs. We have Evan as our main developer. We've got Jared as our main back end guy, and then there's a tremendous amount of operations. And then if you look at all the different piece parts, for somebody to set this up on their own so they could use an open source front end of it, that would take such documentation. Jared would disappear for 6 months.
Just poof.
Yeah.
Well, it was funny you mentioned that because I had an idea that when I first was hired, everybody was giving me a hard time, saying, "Oh, you've got that new hire energy. Just go get them." And I think something that we often do is, without recognizing our problem domains and really focusing in on the problem, we go off to a corner and script stuff up in code. And so I've written some stuff that I can bug Ed about to see if he'll let me release it more for sysops, DevOps stuff. But I think it's just a reminder to the DevOps folks who are listening to this, and that really identify the pain points and the problems. And once at about September, I realized I didn't know enough to go the direction I was headed. And so it really has been drinking from that fire hose, watching the high friction points in our process and trying to make documentation, make some code that can get us there and make things better. But where I'm already stoked is for next year, because this year is awesome. And even Ed's energy for just this year and next year is just, contagious. So anyway, I think it's a great thing. And if I show the stuff to Ed and Ed gives the nod, it's not too big. It's just a little thing, but maybe something like that could enter the world.
I'd be for standalone things that help, sysadmins do their job better. But for the whole grandiose thing, it'd be hard for somebody to instantiate that, let alone keep it up and support it.
Right.
I can barely do it.
It's hard. So I have a great story, Jared. I hope you don't mind my telling it. But 4 weeks ago, Jared and I are talking, and Jared's like, "What's your biggest worry of this launch?" And I said, "Do you really want me to tell you?" And he's like, "Yeah, I want to hear it." I said, should I say it?
Go for it, man.
I won't jinx it or curse anything.
No, go for it.
So I said, my biggest worry is we go live, and it crashes 5 minutes later. And then after 5 or 10 minutes, you get back up for 5 minutes, and then it crashes again. and that keeps going for a day or so. I said, that's my biggest worry. And Jared's like, "That's a good worry." And he said, "I will do everything to make sure that doesn't happen." And it's been a good, almost 30 hours now, and that hasn't happened. So thank you for your hard work on that. But we do sweat the details, and we do lose a lot of sleep in trying to get the production
Well, I mean,
ready.
I think unless the timing in my head is off, around the time that you launched Holiday Hack is when Amazon crashed. So completely unrelated.
Yes. Some people have actually drawn.
You brought down
conclusion to
Amazon.
that. Yes, they said that it was us. I had nothing to do with it, officer. Honest. But it was. They crashed, I think, 2 hours before we went live.
Oh, okay.
Which is like.
All right, so we've been at this almost an hour. I had two quick things. One is actually really quick. There's a number of folks in chat that I do see going by that are saying things like, "Thank you, we love Holiday Hack Challenge, and we want you to keep it up." So I wanted to make sure that if you're not watching chat, you at least hear that, right?
Thank you so much, and we'll pass that on to the team because it really is the whole team's effort. So thank you for that. We'll let them know.
Yeah, people appreciate this. I mean, I've used it. Jason's used it. I've talked to lots of folks. Folks that I work with at Red Hat, I've mentioned it to them, and they've either already know about it or have tried it out now, and they love it. It's just everyone I've talked to that's hopped into it for 5 minutes or 20 hours, right? They enjoy it, and I think that's that you need to hear that feedback, right?
Much appreciated.
And the other thing, and this isn't something I prepped you for, so I hope it's not blindsiding you. I'm kind of curious with all of the announcements that have come surrounding online worlds, right? Yeah. This year with Meta and the metaverse and whatever. Do you foresee any like a shift in your own online world that is more, say, virtual or even 3D or anything like that?
When can we step into the Santaverse?
Yeah, when can we step into the Santaverse? Or I guess really this is just an open question about like where do you see Holiday Hack going and that online world going in the future?
That is a really good question. We've had several people say since launch, yesterday, when they first get into the game, is this the metaverse? And they're like,
it kind of is,
It's hilarious. So we definitely want to push that technology forward, but there is something that we try to do with Holiday Hack Challenge, and we think about this a whole lot. We want it to be free. And by free, we mean not only that you don't pay us, but it requires no special hardware.
Right.
Okay? Or even no special internet service. We're really careful about writing our challenges so they don't require callbacks. Because there are kids around the world on the internet that can't listen on a port. Why? Because their ISP blocks it, and they'd have to buy something special and go to a cloud and this and that, and it's beyond their capability. So if there's any callbacks, reverse shells or anything like that, we always do them in-game. So you'll have a reverse shell from one of our systems to one of our systems in case you can't catch that reverse shell. We have talked about doing some sort of VR kind of thing. We want to do it, or even augmented reality. When Pokemon Go was really big, we're like, can we do something like that? And the issue is we don't want to limit ourselves to people who can only afford certain hardware.
Right.
There are kids in relatively poor countries that play this game and love it. We even look at like, what kind of hardware do you need to render our stuff at a reasonable 30 frames per second or something like that? Is that something that somebody with very little money in a third world country, say, or inner city or something, could afford to do with what they might have available to them? So we sweat that. But like VR goggles and stuff like that, until Mark Zuckerberg makes sure that every one of us is, has them, so that we can spend all our money in the metaverse.
Right.
So that's the limiting factor on that. I would not rule it out, but
it has to be a lot more affordable, is what it comes down to.
Yeah, we did a challenge a few years ago where you had to call a phone number. And we were worried that, what if you're in another country? How much is it going to cost you to call a phone number? So we set some things up with VoIP so you could use our systems to call your phone. Then we were worried about, well, what if people just start dialing through us and we become, an international carrier, right? So you got to be careful with that stuff too.
Yeah, so, it's funny. My dad used to run a phone company. He's got a story about a PBX that they used to manage that they started seeing these weird in through their system and sort of relaying from them to another to match their calls. So that's a real concern when it comes to any kind of a telephone service that you're trying to offer. People will abuse it because they want to try to cover their tracks.
We haven't done telephony recently. That was a few years ago, but we are looking at all that and accessibility. For people with different abilities, we do think about that. If you're deaf, can you still play the game? Does it still work?
Right.
If you're colorblind, or have other issues, we're not perfect at it. Last year we launched the game and we had the Santavator. It's the elevator in Santa's workshop, and we didn't realize that if you couldn't differentiate red and yellow and green
Oh,
very
right.
well, it'd be hard to do. So we came up with some graphical ways to indicate that these things are of a different type rather than just their color. So we're learning about that and trying to make it the best that we can. But also we're focused on people who don't have the latest hardware gear. Can they still play and not be disadvantaged in the gameplay and the learning?
Right. That's important. It really is important, especially in a thing where you're trying to not just make it fun for people to play, but in order to educate people, right? People want to be able to come in and learn, just have fun, right? It's great that that's one of your goals, to make sure it's accessible to just about anybody.
It's so cool, the worldwide appeal of this thing. So I don't want to sound like we're bragging or anything, but it's neat to see all these people coming in from different countries. We have people submitting reports in languages I can't read or understand. They're in kanji, which is cool. I was in Saudi Arabia just before the lockdown started. So I'm standing there at a conference in Saudi Arabia, and these various Saudis and people from all over the Arab world are coming up to me, and they're saying, "Thank you for Holiday Hack Challenge." And they're all dressed in their traditional clothing and such. And this is like lovely, Every year they get to party with Santa Claus. I mean, how cool is that?
That's pretty cool. Pretty cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I mean, this has been a great conversation. We've gone kind of all over the place. We've answered questions. Jason, did you have any final things that we wanted to try to touch on that you think we didn't cover?
No, I love just hanging out with Ed, and you guys
this is
do
always fun.
incredible work with this.
I love talking with you guys.
It's always fun.
Really,
If you ever just want a podcast to hang out on, reach out. We'll find something to talk about.
I enjoy talking with you. The whole sysadmin view of this thing is tremendous, and we should try to break down those silos. Security people versus sysadmins. We got to all work together and learn each other's crafts. It'll make us all better at what we do.
Yeah.
And that's why I like hanging out with you guys. Plus, you're just fun. I mean, this is a good time. So.
Every time we've had any kind of a security professional on this show, the topic has always come back to that. And it's something that Jason and I both agreed with. It's part of the reason that we have ever had anything to do with information security is because the two of us worked together in higher ed. I was a sysadmin, he was a network engineer. And we both felt very strongly that even if it's not in our title, it is part of what we have to do. We have to know it. Even if we're not professionals, even if we're not experts, we have to know about that world in order to protect our stuff from it, right? So that's the whole reason that this show has a security bend to it, because we feel strongly about the same thing. So
well said. Well said.
All right. Well, this has been great. We're going to go to a break, folks. You two hang out, and we'll make sure that all the recordings get closed up fine, and then you're welcome to hop out if you want to. And for everyone watching on the live stream, we'll be back in a few. So hang out.
Thank you.
Are you a fan of the Iron Sysadmin podcast? If you are, don't forget you can support the show via Patreon at patreon.com/IronSysAdmin. Or you can buy merchandise at teespring.com/stores/IronSysAdmin. And thank you. Are you a fan of the Iron Sysadmin podcast? If you are, don't forget you can support the show via Patreon at patreon.com/IronSysAdmin. Or you can buy merchandise at teespring.com/stores/IronSysAdmin. And thank you. Welcome back, everybody. That was a fun conversation, right?
It's Ed. It's always a fun conversation.
I know. He's a fun guy to chat with.
No pie, though.
Oh, that's right. He does usually do the pie thing, doesn't he? He was doing that.
Well, I mean, he did with DerbyCon until there was no more DerbyCon. So
yeah, that's a shame. It's not. There we go. It's good enough. All right. Your frame was all messed up. I fixed it. It's close enough to done. It's close enough to right now. All right. So yeah, I hope everybody checks out the Holiday Hack Challenge. It's a lot of fun, and even if you're not an InfoSec professional, there is something there for you to learn, something there to try out, and you get those quick, easy scores from point to point. Where at least you haven't years past. I haven't looked at this year's challenge yet, but it gives you that little hit. The little dopamine hit that makes you feel like you've accomplished something, and then it makes you want to do more, right? And it's fun. I like the way they set it up. They always set it up sort of easy to difficult, and it's a good thing.
Yeah, and so he was talking about the little intro area that you're in, which is helpful because it reminded me of things that took me a while to learn last time.
Yeah.
Because I think the first year that they did it in this little virtual world that he's got, you're running around doing everything, and I was hitting some of the challenges and just pulling my hair out. I'm like, I don't even know what to do with this. Like, I'm not even sure where to start.
Right.
and it took me a while, and I don't remember if somebody told me or if I did it by accident. The little gift icon that's on the chest of your character that's running around,
Yeah.
you can click that, and there's all manner of information in there,
Yeah. There
hints
is.
and
Yep.
tasks, and yeah. So
It's almost like a quest log. You know, you're walking
it
around the
is, yeah,
RPG and you're like, what was I doing
yep,
again? Where was I supposed to go? Oh, it's in the quest log. I'm supposed to go to this town. Right. Well, yeah. Yeah.
right, yep. And that there's definitely information in there that you want and that you should get and use. And some of the, the couple challenges that I did this year so far, kind of explained everything. It gave you, it didn't give away everything, but it gave you enough to go on.
Yeah.
So I figured out the S trace and L trace challenge. Matter of fact, just before I left, right after work, just before I ate dinner to come here. That one was neat because it's a way of using those tools that I had never tried before. So the basic idea is that you blew up your server and you had to reinstall, and you've reinstalled it, but now the program that you need to run won't start. Please
Oh.
fix it. And when you run the program, it basically says, can't find, it fails because it can't find the registration file.
Oh. Okay. Yeah.
But it doesn't tell you what the registration file is. So you have to use the
So you need to
strace
try
and
to
ltrace commands
see
to
what file
figure
it's
out
trying to hit
what
and yeah.
what the program is doing. And then when you figure out the file, I'm like, okay, touch the file. Okay, the file exists now. Now it pops up and says it can't find the registration in the file. So then you can use those commands to figure out what to put in the file.
What code is it
Yeah.
looking for? Well, that's cool. That's
Right.
cool.
Right, which was that was new. I've never
Yeah.
I never thought to do that.
Yeah, I
So
like
you could
so
you could
a lot of times a capture the flag challenge will be here's an insanely difficult problem to solve. Have fun. Here's a hint that might be helpful, but only if you kind of already know what you're supposed to do. Whereas Holiday Hack, it's here's a talk about a technology. Here's a paper about that technology. Here's a challenge. And the challenge is
yeah.
probably based on the talk and the paper. So not only are you learning something new, but you're applying it right away, right? Which
Oh, and by the way, there's a big chat window on the side where you can ask questions, and people are
right,
asking questions and trying to figure things out.
right, right. It's
Um,
I really like the way
yeah,
they have it set up. So
yeah. The other one I did that I spent the most time on was a challenge where there's a program you're trying to run, and it won't run because there's a security um, system that's blocking it from running called Yara.
uh-huh.
And I've never played with Yara, although I may look at it now. It's kind of neat. But basically, what it does is it looks at the binaries and the behavior and does a bunch of things based on that behavior. So you run the binary and it tells you like, yeah, you're blocked. I can't run this because this Yara rule, and you got to go into Yara and figure out the rule and then figure out how to get around it. And it involves dumping. You use a program called XXD, and all of this is, I'm not giving anything away. This is like right in the directions. You use a program called XXD to turn the binary from a binary blob into a hex dump, and then you can edit the hex dump, and then you use XXD again in the reverse to take that hex dump and turn it back into a binary, which I thought was really cool. And then you run it, and so I haven't solved that one. I think I know how to solve it. I haven't spent enough time on it, but it's a lot of fun poking at it to figure it out.
Cool. All right, so I think we're going to move along into the announcements and get this show on the road. What do you think? It's probably the
Yeah,
thing we're
I'm gonna
supposed to do.
answer. I'm gonna answer Thor's question real quick though.
You do that.
So they're asking how would anyone get into doing CTFs, and I'm not sure if it's how do I make one or how do I play one. I mean the Holiday Hack's a good example of, well, just go there and play.
Yeah.
But there's all sorts of other sites like Hack the Box is one of the ones that I see kicked around a lot.
Yep.
That's
Try Hack Me is another one that I've
CTFs.
heard.
Try Hack Me.
In fact,
And
it might have been a month or two ago, we had a show specifically about participating in CTFs. You may want to go back
Right.
and listen to that.
Yep.
It might have been show like 110 or 109. It's probably titled
Yeah.
something like CTFs.
Yeah, somebody should invent something to be able to search for those sorts of things.
It is weird. It's weird. So yeah, but yeah, Hack the Box, Try Hack Me, the Holiday Hack Challenge. There's another one I can't think of at the moment. It's probably talked about in that show, but
Yeah,
and then
those
there's
are
that
those are
episode
all
about
online
CTFs.
ones.
Yeah.
And then if you go to like different conferences, ShmooCon or any of the B-Sides conferences, a lot of them have CTFs that they play live. It's pretty competitive at those. But there's one called Pros versus Joes, which we do at the B-Sides Delaware conference, which is specifically they take you and they hook you up with they figure out who's a beginner, who's a professional, and they pair you together to learn, and then off you go. So
So that's pretty
tons
cool.
of
So you're not just learning from reading something; you're learning from literally
No.
someone who knows what they're doing, almost like a
Yep.
mentor. That's pretty cool.
Yep.
Pretty cool.
So
All right, so we're gonna go on to announcements. First, as usual, is our Patreon update. We got a new patron since our last show, which is pretty cool. He even reached out to me because sometimes I have trouble like pronouncing people's names. This one's a pretty simple name, but it's a good thing that they reached out to me because I would have said it like a filthy American. But it's the letter Z, like us Americans say it. But apparently he's from Canada or Europe. It's Zed Thor. So there we go. I got it right, and I even pronounced it wrong to live up to our usual standards. Right? So Zed Thor, fferauu. That's another one I can't pronounce. fferauu fferauu. Name pending 197. Jeremy, Jeremiah, Arinomi, Andrew, Tatro, Bruce, Robert, Matt, David, Solemn with a 3 and an O in there. Trooper-ish, Linux Sys 666, gimpyb, Marc with a K, The Mentor, John the Nice Guy, Marc with a C, Julius, Andy, Jay, Charles, and 22532. So thank you to all the patrons. You guys help make this show possible. You help pay for the hosting, for the... now you're like messing around with the... What are you doing in the Google
No,
Doc?
I'm just.
What are you going to break something?
No, I'm not going to break anything. I was curious. I was looking at this before. So this Jeremy, what appears to be Jeremy character.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering if because it's
Are they
like
some
an
kind of like
A
phonetic things?
and
Yeah.
a copyright symbol.
Well, that's Google
It-
Docs. If you look at, I don't know if you can see on our Patreon.
Yeah, I was going to say, is this like a UTF-8 thing between
Yeah.
Patreon and Google Docs?
I'd have to copy it out of Patreon for you again, but
Yeah.
I think Google Docs displays it differently than Patreon does. Anyway, thank you to you lovely patrons. You help keep the lights on, and it's very appreciated. All right, so if anybody wants to support the show and get a T-shirt instead of just blindly sending money into the internet, you can do so at Teespring, teespring.com/stores/ironsysadmin. Yeah, and we have a referral link here if you want to try out Riverside, which is the thing we use to record the show. I know that's probably not a huge use case for everyone listening, but if you think you want to start a podcast, it's a great way to do it. It really is. So you can go try that out if you wanted to. As far as reviews go, we got nothing new. So, I guess we're doing everything right. Right? That's my assumption. That or everybody hates us and no one's actually listening anymore. I hope that's not the case. All right, and that's our announcement. You have any announcements that you didn't put in the thing? You don't have any conference to announce? You're like in conference coast
we're
mode
gonna
now that it's over?
So B-Sides is over.
Yeah.
It was fun. It was great. The videos are online if you want to watch them. The plan is to do it next year, preferably in person. Hopefully in person.
I hope
It's
so.
going to be in person. Damn it. We're going to do it hybrid. The plan is to stream it and have Discord and all that as well. But
Oh, that's cool.
we want an in-person conference. Come hell or high water.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot
and
of
it will-
conferences that are doing that this year. There's just always, one, there's low attendance because a lot of people are still worried. Two, there's usually a lot of regulation around like trying to protect the participants, right? So you may end up with that next year. Who knows? It's really hard
Yep,
to say
yep.
right now.
So
Last year at this time,
tentatively,
we thought this year was going to be open again, but yeah, here
yeah.
we are.
So tentatively, the dates are, and we have to confirm our venue and everything. So this is not in stone, but tentatively the dates are November 11th and 12th, which
Cool.
is a Friday, Saturday.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, I may actually try to make it out next year if you're in person.
Actually, if we do it in person, we'd probably do the whole weekend. So it'll probably be 11, 12, 13. So we'll see. I mean, we'll definitely put we'll put it out there once we know. But tentatively, that's
Cool.
that's what it looks like.
Well, yeah, I didn't get to attend any this year just because life got busy. So I'm sorry. I would have went and supported your conference, but I just couldn't.
I get it. I mean,
And I mean, it's got to be the same for a lot of people, right? When you're home and you're trying to virtually attend a conference, you got a billion things demanding your attention, and that's exactly what happened to me.
yeah, I have found that the best way to attend a virtual conference from home is to be the one running the conference. That way you're there.
Yeah, that's probably a good way to do it.
This was the only conference I went to all year.
Yeah. I mean, I got to be honest, virtual conferences, I'm getting sick of the whole concept, at least the way that they're being done at the moment, which is like, oh, we've got a chat platform, whatever that is, whether it's Discord or Slack or some integrated chat platform, and you can watch a bunch of streamed, possibly live, possibly recorded talks, which I don't know. It doesn't feel like a conference. It just feels like a collected, collection of talks.
Online conferences have not changed since late 90s, early 2000s when they first started.
Yeah.
There's been no innovation, no nothing. It's the same thing it was back then.
Yeah, you would think that last year, there would have been a ton of innovation in that space. And there really hasn't been.
There have been a couple companies who are starting to innovate, but trying to build a platform that can support a conference online with everything that it entails in a short period of time is not a trivial thing to do.
Yeah.
So, they're starting to come out, but by the time they get out, like, unfortunately, I think that by the time that they're ready to be, fully baked platforms to use, I really, really hope that this whole lockdown virtual conference, afraid of my own shadow thing is going to be over.
Yeah. I think a lot of us hope that.
Yeah, I mean, by the time I get my 12th booster shot, I'm pretty much going to be done with all this. So.
My gosh, it's terrible. It is terrible. All right, so as far as chat goes, I mean, we're coming up on Christmas, and that usually means I don't have as much time for projects and stuff that I might talk about in this section. So that's not an excuse, but I don't have a lot of projects to talk about in this section, which is usually what we use this for. I did get my Jeep back on the road, which I've probably said lots of times on this show, because it goes through phases of drivable and broken for months. Well, this time it was about a month that I had the whole steering torn out of it. And actually, it wasn't because it was anything particularly complicated to replace. I was replacing some worn out steering joints, which is something that happens to every car. This isn't anything special to me having a Jeep that I drive off-road or anything. It's just that one of those pieces, and I'm sure people can relate to this, one of those pieces I could not find anywhere. The manufacturer that makes it was back ordered. Every auto parts store in the area was out of stock. Every auto parts store I found online was out of stock. I ended up finding one that had what they refer to as new old stock. If you're not familiar with that term, it means we have an old version of this part that nobody bought and we found laying in a box somewhere. So that's what I put in.
You can have it for twice the price.
You can have it for twice the price. So yeah, usually like when an auto parts store goes out of business or something, they sell off all of their inventory to some liquidator, and then it gets sold to other places as new old stock. And that's what this was. It's the only way I was able to find the dang thing. So hopefully it's not because they don't make it anymore, and it's actually just supply chain problems. But at the moment, I have a quote-unquote new one in the Jeep, and hopefully I won't need another one for quite a while.
Yeah, I am vehicle. Well, I use my wife's vehicle now, but I am vehicleless. After 250,000 miles, it was finally time to retire the Focus.
The Focus finally died, or did you just
No,
retired
nope,
it? It didn't die. You just
nope.
got rid of it.
No, the engine is fine. Nope, that engine will go another 250,000 miles. I need a new rack.
Oh, that's not
apparently.
cheap. Probably costs more than the car.
No. Yeah, it's potential that it might cost more than the car is worth. So
Yeah.
Honestly, I keep, it's sitting in the garage right now. Maybe next year I pull it out and do the rack anyway. I don't know. I haven't decided what I want to do. We haven't really had a need for two cars in the past 2 years. So
I know the feeling. I was just having this conversation with a friend the other day because he had a car in an accident, and that was like 2 months ago. He literally got hit by a school bus. Like, not a school bus that was actually employed by a school. It was a school bus that's apparently somebody had bought and was living out of.
Oh.
And they were high. And they hit him.
That's a school RV.
Yeah, it's a school RV. But physically it was a school bus. It was the same size, shape, and weight, even bright yellow as a school bus. But anyway, he got rear-ended by the school bus. And his car, of course, got totaled because it got rear-ended by a freaking school bus. And he's been without a car for 2 months now or so. But anyway, I was having this conversation with him. I'm like, working from home, my wife is a stay-at-home mom. Like, we could probably survive on one vehicle. Unfortunately, I'm addicted to vehicles, so we can't live with one vehicle. So we have 3 for 2 people, one of which works from home, and the other of which doesn't actually have to commute anywhere other than carting the kids around. So yeah, we could probably get by with a single minivan, but that's just not me.
Yeah, we have so my wife's car is on the road. It's in fine condition, no issues. So if we need to go on a trip, or if I have to go in, to work hours away, I can take that. And my car is there, and it is drivable, and it works and it runs. So in a pinch, in an emergency where I absolutely have to get somewhere, and that's the only vehicle I have, I'm okay taking it on the road. Like, oh, but it's not registered, like, whatever, it's an emergency, get over it.
Yeah, it's kind of like my Jeep. Like, it's perfectly drivable on the street. It's not comfortable to drive on the street. It's not as safe as your general vehicle, but for someone who knows what they're driving, it's perfectly fine, especially for a short or emergency drive. But yeah, we still have 2 extra vehicles though. So one of them is eventually going to tow the Jeep so that the Jeep no longer has to drive on the road. That's the goal, right? That's the reason we have the 2. So anyway, because again, I'm addicted to vehicles. But anyway, this isn't a show about Nate's addiction to Jeeps. The other things I'm doing is
the other show.
Yeah, that's right. That's the other show. Have you done anything with your 3D printer? I know you have one. I don't know how much you're using it.
I have printed pieces and parts and stuff on it, and poked around at it a whole bunch. So yeah, yes.
I found a cool printable fidget thing called an infinity cube. There's another benchy. That's what you've always got benchies to show us. But I printed a bunch of these little benchy guys, if anybody can see them on the video. Or not benchy. You've got like a, whatever that is. These infinity cubes, they're like a fidget toy because kids love fidget toys. I printed one for each of the kids. This one's going to their cousin. Not as a Christmas gift exactly. Just he'll probably get it on Christmas just because. But yeah, they're just like, it folds, right? It's not like a Rubik's Cube or something. It's just like, you can hang out and play with it. But anyway,
it looks like it came out pretty well.
It's a print in place thing, which is they always fascinate me because all these little joints and stuff, it comes out that way. All you do is clean off the support material if there is any, and then break the joints, and off you go. So it's pretty cool. So that's fun. Yeah. Otherwise, I actually have my sister is a Sailor Moon fan, and I have a Sailor Moon figure that I've printed out for her, and I'm gonna paint and stuff for her for Christmas. So hopefully she enjoys that. And otherwise, I've been tinkering with VR a lot because VR is fun. I don't know, like VR was one of those things that when I was a kid, it was like science fiction. I'm sure you the same way, right? You saw Lawnmower Man, right? And you're like, wow, VR, that's awesome. That'll never happen. That's all. That's just something.
I get uploaded.
Yeah, it's just something I'll see in movies and whatever. And now we have it, and it's actually really cool. It's actually really cool, right? So I've been sort of latched on to this whole metaverse concept since the announcement from Facebook, because part of me is like, Zuckerberg was talking about how they are like, it's like their birthright to be the, quote unquote, the metaverse, right? And part of me was like, no, this can't be something that he thought up. So I started looking into it, and sure enough, he didn't. There's lots of other companies that are doing similar things.
Oh, yes, of course.
So I've been looking into those because I'm curious about the technology, like what makes a metaverse versus what makes an online game, and the distinction is really, really fine. But we'll probably have an upcoming show, because I want to kind of like talk about it as a topic, and I have this crazy idea that I want to try to host an episode of the show from a virtual space, if I can make that happen. Something that you can join even without having a VR setup, because I don't think you have a VR setup, but that also Mark and I
have one I can borrow.
Okay. Well, my point is, there's this app called VR Chat, which in itself is like this scary, like, imagine chat rooms from the 90s and how skeevy they were.
I know what VR Chat is.
And
I know what it is.
And then it's a virtual space where people can like literally look as skeevy as they sound. That's VR Chat. But
it's not only skeevy people.
No, it's not only that. There's lots of fun things you can do there. I was joking because my kids saw me tinkering with it, and they were like, "What's that?" I'm like, "Well, it's kind of like Roblox, but for adults." And that's really the best way I can describe it.
And you're not touching it until you're 21.
You're not touching it until you're a lot older. But anyway, one of the cool things about it is you can design your own space, and it uses Unity. Are you familiar with Unity?
Yes.
You've got to be familiar with Unity, which is basically a game development platform, right? It literally uses Unity to make 3D spaces and scripting, and like, it's pretty cool. So I've been learning Unity to try to make basically a podcast studio in VR. And if I can succeed on that, I think it's just going to be a fun little project. We may use it once and never touch it again, or maybe it becomes the way that we stream the show. I don't know. We will see. We'll see how it works out. But it's just, a fun little thing I've been tinkering with in the multitudes of spare time that I have this time of year.
Yeah, I'm thrilled by the idea of online worlds.
Yeah. Me too.
But if it is a Zuckerberg run world, I will never be in it. So,
yeah, and that's
everybody will just bypass me.
That's kind of the topic I have in mind for a future show. So, and I don't know if you remember, we had, what was his name, Josh from Papercut, and we ended up talking about VR with him a little bit. Were you on the Papercut episode? I don't remember.
Was I? I don't remember.
I know Mark was there. I can't remember if you were there. But anyway, we ended up, after we talked about Papercut and the product and the stuff that they offer, we just kind of sidetracked into VR, because both Mark and he were big on VR. This Josh guy, he's really big on VR. We may actually bring him back to talk about it too, because he's got opinions. So, I think there's a lot of cool potential there. And there have been so many technologies that have come and I've laughed at, and then they've become huge. I don't really want this to be another one.
No, I mean, I have looked forward to being able to get into like actual, honest to God, usable VR forever. Right now, I mean, I'd go out and buy a VR setup and just start going at it, but I don't know that it's quite where I want it to be yet.
Yeah.
I would like to sit down at my desk in the morning, drop my VR glasses on, and go to work.
That's funny.
What I want.
I was chatting with some coworkers via email, ironically enough. We're talking about virtual worlds, which is one of the newest forms of communication, and one of the oldest forms of electronic communication, email. But she does that. She actually has a virtual space where she puts on her headset in the morning, and she has, I mean, it's probably the worst way to do this, but it's kind of the gateway to doing this, where she has virtual spaces that are just like remote desktop sessions in front of her. Right.
Yeah.
And she can interact with those. I don't know how I guess you type with a visual keyboard, which sounds very clunky. And I don't know if I could do my job that way, but she says it's functional, which is kind of neat.
Yeah. So, I don't know if you ever met him, but there's a guy goes by the name of Blind Hacker.
Yeah.
who does, and this is one of those where it's like, wait a minute, because he's literally a blind.
He's literally blind.
hacker.
Yeah.
He's
I
blind.
met him at B-Sides last year, I think. I was chatting with him for quite a while.
And just to make sure that we understand, legally blind. So he has vision issues, but I guess he can see some things, but it's debilitated to the point where he's legally blind. Well, he does a ton in VR.
Yeah.
And I think he has different setups like that he uses. Matter of fact, I think he gave his B-Sides talk. He sort of did it in VR, I believe.
I wonder if for somebody, and again, maybe you don't know this, and I don't want to dig too deeply into the poor man's disability, but I wonder if people with his type of disability can see VR better than they can a monitor, because the screens are like right up close to your eyes. I find that I don't need my glasses when I'm using VR. I can see everything just fine.
I think
because it's a distance thing for me. I don't know how eyes work, but I'm curious.
I think he actually mentioned that. He said that's one of the reasons that he does it. I had made a comment at one point about VR, and the fact I don't see 3D. I have no three-dimensional vision.
Okay.
Because of my own eye issues. So, I apparently do really well, and I know things are three-dimensional, but I'm told that I only ever see in 2D. And I sort of mentioned that at one point. I think it was on one of the blog posts I made a couple years ago, and I kind of mentioned like I'd love to get into this. It'd be really neat, but like I can't see 3D, so I'm not sure that this is going to do anything at all for me. And John Carmack actually responded to that.
Oh, that's awesome.
And he popped in. He's like, "Yes, you'll still benefit from it though, so give it a shot." He's right. He's absolutely right.
Yeah, you still get the benefits of being immersed.
Yes.
I mean, you don't see 3D. You don't see the normal world in 3D the way the rest of us do because of whatever issue you have with your eyes. So you would see VR in the same way you see R, reality, right?
I guess.
I would think anyway. And you'd still have the benefit of the tracking and the immersion that you get out of VR.
Yep.
It's just you wouldn't get the 3D aspect of it.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So it's it's something that I would be interested in pursuing. I want to be able to I love the idea of being able to set up a bunch of different virtual desktops and whatever. I mean, one of the things that I would really love to be able to do is like have a headset I can just plug HDMI into, and throw Xbox in there, or Switch, or whatever.
I was hoping, because the headset I have, the video input for it is HDMI, but it doesn't, it must use some sort of a special driver, because the machine doesn't see it as a display. It sees it as a VR headset, and you can only use it through stuff that's made to output to a VR headset. So I can't just use it as a monitor, for example. And I don't know if that would work anyway, but it may. I don't know.
Yeah, I found one headset that's designed for that. It's from Sony, and it's like $900. So I was like, yeah, no. I mean,
that's
throw it up on a TV.
That's the cost of VR headsets. I mean, the one I've got is several years old, but when it was new, it was $500-600. The Valve Index today is like $700-800, right?
You plugged the HDMI into it,
it's just a display.
and it displayed it on a virtual screen.
Yeah,
and that was it. There was no VR or anything. It was just a virtual screen for you.
That doesn't sound useful at all. Well, I mean, it sounds useful if that's what you're looking for, but it doesn't sound it's worth $1,000.
Yeah, so I haven't looked lately to see what VR stuff is out there, and maybe I will after the holiday. Maybe I should do it now while everything's on sale.
There you go. The biggest problem I have with the technology as it is today, and again, I have an older headset, is the screen door effect. With games, you kind of look past it. If you're doing anything, like if I can pull up my desktop in VR through Steam VR, but you can't interact with it. You can't really read it unless you magnify everything, because it's just, one, the resolution's not there, and two, everything has this screen door in front of it, which is, I think, an artifact of the fact that the screens have a certain dots per inch, right? And that's magnified.
Yeah.
So you actually get space between the pixels because it's so magnified onto your eye, right? Which could be why I don't need my glasses to see it. But
be
yeah,
nice.
yeah. So anyway, it's fun, and I think it's awesome that the technology is here now, and I'm saddened by the fact that the people pioneering it at the moment or making it accessible are also looking to do it or use it to suck every penny they can out of people as products. But again, we'll talk about that some other time. You got some sort of an ESP32 project, or not project maybe, but product you're
Yeah.
bought here?
So the what is the home automation channel on Discord?
Mm-hmm.
Somebody had posted an article about building a like a Ring doorbell, like
Yeah.
a homemade Ring doorbell type thing.
Yeah.
And I've gone back and forth on Ring a million times. I keep looking at it, and you know, because I would love the way that my house is set up, and the fact that, you know, I'm in an office most of the day, and the animals aren't necessarily, you know, I can't necessarily hear that somebody's at the door or whatever. Having a doorbell that people can ring would be, because I don't have a doorbell at all, would be nice. And, you know, being able to like say, hey, you know, I'll be there, I'll be right there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I've kind of bounced back and forth on that. And when I saw that article, I was like, oh, okay, I'll take a look at this. So I poked around a little bit. The link that they have in the article to this, it's an ESP32 Lily Go or something like that. Their link doesn't work because wherever it goes, that it's not sold there anymore. But I found the same thing on Tindy, which I trust a lot more than, what is it, AliExpress, I think is where they had the link to.
Yeah.
I trust Tindy a lot more. So Tindy has them. I ordered one. It'll come in the mail, and I'll do something with it, I guess.
Eventually.
I'll figure out how it works and figure out how to make it do what I want it to do, I hope.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Yeah.
And I also ordered.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say along the same sort of maker type track. I also ordered a Pinesil. I don't know if you've seen these yet. So there's a soldering iron out there called a TS100. It's like this really thin, really cool USB powered. Well, I guess it's USB powered. Really high end soldering iron, and the guys that make the Pine 64 and the Pine phone and the Pine laptop and all the Pine stuff have a knockoff of the TS100 called the Pinesil, which, you know, is a play on pencil, for like, I think it was like a quarter of the price of the TS100. And I watched a couple different reviews on it, and they're like, yeah, it's basically a TS100. Same, you know, it uses the same tips that the TS100 uses. It's just custom chip, custom firmware, the whole 9 yards. It was like $20. So I was like, all right, I'll throw $20 out there and try this. So I ordered it. It shipped from China. It made it to the US. It made it to New York specifically, bounced around in New York a little bit, went over to Jersey, bounced around in Jersey a little bit, and now it's currently bouncing around Illinois.
The wrong part of the country.
I have no idea what they're doing. I'm hoping it makes it here at some point. I looked at it yesterday and it said it was delivered, and I was like, what? But it doesn't say delivered anymore. Now it's still in shipping. So hopefully it makes it here. I don't know. Wouldn't be the first time something from overseas went in weird directions and never made it. But
yeah, I get. You talked about AliExpress. I get my smart light bulbs from AliExpress because they're the only place that I've been able to find them at a decent price. And you're right. Every time I'm there, I feel like I always use a privacy.com credit card instead of using like an actual, like my normal credit card, because I feel like anything I put in here is going to be sucked up by like the Chinese government or something, because it's basically the Chinese Amazon. It's what it comes down to.
Yeah, that's what I thought. And I kept looking at it going, no, I don't like, I've been sent there a number of times for all sorts of different stuff. And
Well, it's
I
a
no.
great place to find cheap, no-name electronics. Like if you need an ESP board and you go to AliExpress, you're going to find it a lot cheaper than you will on Amazon. But you don't know, like one, it could take 3 months to get to you because it's literally coming from China. You know, it's sourcing from China. It's not like Amazon where it's sourced all over the freaking world. It's like, nope, little warehouse somewhere in China is where these things come from. You don't know the quality that you're going to get. And, I mean, if you need to return something, I don't even know what that's going to look like. Right? So...
Yeah, for items that are like $5 or $10, like maybe, but...
Yeah,
anything,
right.
anything.
So the bulbs for a set, I think a box of 4 of them, I spent $20. And they're pretty good, right? I've had one fail on me. And I can probably go get that replaced if I wanted to. But to be honest, for the hassle and the $5, I just bought a new bulb.
China is very happy for the botnet bandwidth and listening posts that you've added to your house.
Yeah, right. No, I mean, these are... So you're right? I mean, they're electronics you don't know. But I'm familiar enough with the ESP board and the software running on it that I'm pretty sure they're safe. Unless there's like a secondary board in there that I don't know about.
But there could be...
Yes, that's possible.
There could be a grain of rice underneath a chip connected
you're right.
to the...
You're right. Could be a grain of rice. Yeah. No, I mean, you're right. It's absolutely possible. There are little Chinese listening devices in my house. I'm pretty sure they're not, though.
And if they are, my house would be the same. It'd be like, okay, did you hear anything that was useful?
Yeah, did you? Can you tell me the password? I can't remember because I really want to get back into my bank account and I can't remember what I set the password to.
Can you send me transcripts so that I can remember what happened yesterday?
Yeah, right. Hey, that argument my wife and I had. Can you tell me which one of us was right? Because I don't remember it, and she does clearly, and now I don't know. No.
She is always right. It doesn't matter when she's wrong. She's right.
Yep. So, all right, you were talking about the doorbell thing. I told you this in Discord, but I figured I would say it for the benefit of the show as well. I picked up for $50. I picked up the Wise camera doorbell, which. For the price, I just kind of impulse bought. And I thought, I'll figure it out. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. Well, it's actually pretty nice. It does depend on their cloud, though. And it doesn't integrate with Home Assistant the way I hoped it might. Apparently, with enough hackery, you can kind of integrate it, but it still uses their cloud. So anyone who doesn't mind that, it does work really well. And even without their Cam Plus subscription, it does some limited motion detection to tell me when there's somebody on my front porch. You can do the intercom thing where, there's a delivery guy at your front door and you need to tell them to just leave the package. And it has a camera in it. But, is Wise collecting footage of my front porch? I have no idea.
Yeah, but my ESP board, I can add a laser to it, so...
Yes! You could have a doorbell with freaking laser beams.
Yes. Stop coming to my house and processizing.
I will burn it into your forehead. Yeah. All right. So, yeah. Cool stuff going on. Might as well move on into the news, right? There's a button for that. Do you remember the color of the button? Someone in the chat can shout it out.
Something?
Yeah, it's right here.
Push the button, Frank.
Gotta push the button. Frank. We need a co-host named Frank so that, makes more sense. Maybe I'll just, do a very terrible overdub of Push the Button Nate.
You have the first part of it correct, and then just inject the Nate. Yeah,
then I'll just Nate. All right.
It sounds horrible, and then you've done it correctly.
Well, it has to sound as horrible as this sound clip does.
Push the button, Frank.
You hear blown out it sounds and all that stuff. Yeah, it has to sound just as terrible.
Make sure there's a dumb pause in there. Push the button, Nate.
Yeah, right. It's like I think somebody recorded that from holding a microphone up to their television. Oh, here it comes.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right. So, did you hear that there was an outage at some little hosting provider earlier this week.
Yeah, I couldn't play Christmas music on my device.
Oh yeah, was that down too?
I honestly didn't try, but yes.
Yeah.
Apparently it was.
So I mean, when an outage at one hosting provider can affect things from package deliveries to Disney Plus streaming to music being played on your smart speaker to movies being streamed on Netflix, it has to be the one and only Amazon Web Services.
You forgot the most important thing.
What's that one?
Rumbas didn't rumba.
Are you kidding me? Wow.
No.
My
No,
Roomba
the-
is not
the-
cloud connected because it's
Yeah,
like
the
15 years
newer-
old at this point.
The newer ones apparently are, and because the cloud was down, the Roombas would not do the Roombaing.
People's vacuum cleaners were broken because Amazon was down. Folks, you know how I feel about single hosting providers controlling everything, right? This, I don't even, do I really need to say it? You know what I'm going to say, don't you, Jason?
Forget single hosting providers connecting to things. Like, why the hell is your vacuum cleaner connecting to the cloud?
Right.
What?
This is going to sound like old man shouts at cloud, but it's the same problem over and over again. Amazon Web Services goes down, the world goes insane. Vacuum cleaners don't work. Packages can't be delivered. Disney Plus doesn't work. I mean, set aside the fact that if you have a properly architected application on Amazon Web Services, even a whole region going down shouldn't affect your service, right? Am I wrong? I think that's the way this is supposed to work. But all that aside, right? People like, oh, it's in the cloud. It'll just work, right? Well, it doesn't always. And when it doesn't, this happens. So I haven't seen like a post-mortem of what happened to Amazon Web Services and why it was down for, it was a couple hours,
it might be
I
too
think.
early for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, no, more than a couple hours. I think it was down pretty much all day.
Okay. Well, US East 1 went down. And, surprisingly, I didn't even notice because I work at a company that doesn't necessarily depend on Amazon. But apparently a lot of people did. In fact, our sometimes co-host, Charles, does have applications that are well architected and run on AWS, and his were up, if I remember correctly. At least that's the chatter I saw out of him, I think. Or maybe he was just like, oh, they're down and we can't do anything about it. So yeah,
No. I think the last time, so first of all, US East 1 is the oldest of the Amazon regions.
Yeah.
So there are some of the reasons that you have outages in US East 1 are because, well, equipment's kind of old.
Yeah.
It's in a lot of cases it's version 1 of things that they've done. And the reason that it affects so much is because it was the first region and a lot of stuff was built to depend on that. And over time it's been distributed, but some things just haven't gotten there yet. I mean, AWS is a big service. There's a lot of they control satellites literally. So
did any satellites crash?
There's a lot there. No, but I did see a post on Twitter. This is slightly tangential, but I did see a post on Twitter from somebody who mentioned that the record for the most expensive VM in Amazon has been broken. There is an AMI that is some sort of satellite controller that is in excess of $10,000 an hour.
Wow.
So it's what did he say? I think he said it was like $8 million a year or something to run this thing.
Is that being paid for by taxpayers? Probably.
Whoever spins it up, yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, yes, yeah. So
well,
US East 1,
controlling
when it goes down,
satellites is the sort of thing that governments usually do, which is what I'm saying.
Oh, yeah. I guess. I'm not. I haven't really dug. I don't really have a need to control satellites, so I haven't dug into it so much.
Right.
But the very brief bit that I looked at is there's some sort of like standard for codes and stuff for connecting to satellites, and you just put these codes in and you get connected to the satellite. So I'm not entirely certain how all that works.
That's crazy.
But yeah, US East 1 is old and crotchety, and this was a according to what I was reading, it was hardware failure or
Mhm.
hardware, maybe not complete failure, but at least a degradation in hardware, and it was more than one piece of hardware. It was apparently several pieces.
Yeah. Well, I mean, data centers do get old, right? And
Yeah.
AWS has been around. If that is their oldest data center, you're talking 15 years or so, from when I first heard about it, and it may be older than that.
Probably older than that.
Like, does that
I don't
data
know.
center even predate AWS? Is that like Amazon's data center, right, from before
I don't know.
AWS was a thing? So does that mean that there could be stuff that's even older? I don't know. But you think a cloud like that would be the sort of thing that they can upgrade, and that was the whole point, right? So why
Yeah.
is there hardware that's that old? Unless we're talking about infrastructure, which you generally
Yeah,
don't. Like power, for example, Ethernet cabling, stuff like that doesn't always get refreshed at the same rate that physical hardware does. So
Right.
I don't know. It's hard to say.
Well, did your security camera work? Your Wise camera? 'Cause
I
apparently that was affected.
I don't know that it didn't, but it's also not a security camera. It's just a doorbell.
Well,
So if nobody
doorbell.
walked
Yeah,
on
your
my porch and nobody rang the doorbell, I wouldn't have noticed.
That you know of, maybe somebody did. Maybe
Maybe
you had like
someone
1,000
did.
visitors and you have no idea.
Maybe
Um,
somebody snuck
what
onto my porch and stole the Christmas decorations, and I don't even know it.
what I haven't
I better
seen,
go check.
what I have not seen is the last time there was a major US East 1 outage, things like Slack went down,
Mm-hmm.
and I have not heard anything about that. And Slack specifically said, "We're aware of what happened. We know why it happened. We are going to, work on distributing through other regions
Right.
and making sure that we don't have a single region that kills us."
Right.
So I don't know if that means that they did that, because
Right.
I don't think I've seen anything anywhere that says Slack went down.
Yeah.
So it
Yeah.
is possible to set things up in a
Yeah.
in a way such that this won't kill you completely.
Absolutely, and that's kind of the point, right? This is the cloud infrastructure is meant to be disposable, right? That's not the same. Putting stuff in a cloud that is supposed to be resilient isn't really what AWS is for. AWS is for like on-demand resources. So if you design your thing so that if it goes down, it does not bring itself back up or self-heal, then you kind of did it wrong, right? Like you can run always on services on Amazon, and they're pretty good. I've done it, simple stuff that didn't really matter if it was resilient, that I kept backups of, so that if it were to vanish, which does happen sometimes on Amazon, I could then restore it, because it isn't mission critical stuff. But
Yeah, I don't know that there's any. Yeah, I'm sure I'm going to get beat up for it, but I don't know that there's any infrastructure as a service providers who can provide you a a given set of infrastructure that is automatically resilient without you having to do anything.
right,
It's not like you deploy your VM to
provider
Greg's
X,
cool
yeah,
cloud provider,
and
and
it's
they
immediately
guarantee that
resilient,
it will never ever go down, even if half the world blows up.
yeah. Now we're
That
getting
doesn't
there
that doesn't
with
exist.
like some container hosts can do that. But again, it depends on deploying to a container and knowing how to do that and building your applications
Right.
so that it can be done that way.
Right.
It's not just like
Yeah.
I've turned on a VM on provider X and now it's resilient.
Right.
They don't really work that way.
It's different than software as a service, where you would expect that if you put something in, say, Google Drive or Box or
Yeah.
Dropbox, that
Right.
it's there.
Yep.
Like I put it there, it's there forever.
It's always
I don't
there.
have to worry
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah.
Right. And as long as I have internet connection, I can get to it. Even those go down sometimes.
Yep. Yep.
But there's a big difference. Amazon, like any other cloud provider. Here's some rope. If you hang yourself,
Yeah.
it's
Right.
not my fault.
Right.
I'm just the provider of rope. You can tie all the knots
Here's
you
the
want.
rope. Feel free to hang yourself. All right. So the next
Like, well.
thing. Oh, sorry. That last article was from The Verge. I forgot to say that. The next article is also
No,
from
so
The
is
Verge.
this one.
So here we go. More verging. So we talked a little bit about Facebook, Meta, the metaverse in the chat part. Apparently, so I just learned about this today, and apparently it just released today, and I only found out about it today because a YouTube channel that I watch, it's all about VR, was talking about it. So The internet works. Yay. Today, apparently, the Facebook metaverse, they're calling it the Horizon Worlds, has come out of beta. Or alpha? Come out of beta, I think it says. Yeah. So it's available. You can go ahead and go play it as long as you have a Facebook account and as long as you have an Oculus Quest 2. Only an Oculus Quest 2. So, the very expensive VR headset that I have.
Which, as I understand it, requires a Facebook account.
That's what I mean. If you have a Facebook account, because you need that to use the Oculus Quest.
Yeah.
You can't have an Oculus Quest 1 or a Rift. You have to have a Quest 2, right? So
2 is better.
I don't know if this is indicative of where Facebook is intending to go, or if it's just that, of course, the first version of your application works on your hardware, and they're going to expand it. I hope that just for the sake of the space, I hope that they expand it to be usable on other platforms. But Facebook being Meta being formerly Facebook,
it's Facebook.
It wouldn't surprise me if their whole plan is to say, nope, you got to use our hardware.
Of course.
And that just makes it worse, if you ask me. But if you have an Oculus Quest 2, you can go check out Meta's Horizon Worlds and see what all the buzz is about. It looks very weird because nobody has any feet.
Yes, everybody floats around. I do see that.
Feet. Even in the demo that I saw on that YouTube channel, she had no feet. So now all of the not screenshots, but like pictures and stuff where they demoed what this thing might be, everyone had feet. So I don't know if that means they are going to eventually have feet. VR chat, they have feet. In fact, VR chat, you can use full body tracking. And not only can you have feet that just sort of automatically move as you're moving like a robot would, but they will actually track your feet and your hips and your elbows and whatever to give you like the full effect of you being in VR. For people seeing you, there's people that do like dancing and whatever in VR because of the full body tracking, which is kind of neat, right?
I've seen some pretty crazy stuff that they've built with. I mean, I've seen pictures of it, but of the VR chat stuff. Yeah, there's some crazy rigs that people have that you do like all manner of stuff.
Yeah.
The comments in this post, this post about the Horizon Worlds or whatever it is are actually kind of funny.
I don't usually
the very first comment I see here.
Okay.
Yeah, the very first comment I see is, "I guess you don't need legs in a virtual world."
Yeah.
And that's quickly followed up by, "The argument over genitalia has finally come to an end."
There aren't any. They're all gone.
So, yeah, that's great.
That is funny.
So,
it is funny.
I think I've hit my quota of talking about the evil company now.
Yeah.
Let's talk about other evil companies.
So we'll have a show about where we can bash them all you want. I'll make sure we can plan it on a night where you can be there and talk about the company you hate so much. All right. So what's this last one I put in? Oh, this is really fun. This is great.
Fun's an interesting term to use for this one.
This is awesome. So this one comes from, and this is really just because it's the first article I found about it, from MSN Money, right? Apparently, Android devices greater than 10, I think it is, Android 10 and up, if I remember correctly. If you have Teams installed, that is Microsoft Teams, their meeting and chat application, they're like competitor to WebEx, whatever. If you have that installed on your phone, you may not be able to dial 911. And that sounds insane when you think about it, right? Like, what do you mean I can't dial 911? Now, I don't know the specifics of the bug, except that it is confirmed, and that if you have an Android device with Android 10 or greater, and you have Teams installed, and they make this big deal about whether you're logged into it or not. I don't know if that's part of it. If you're not
relevant.
Logged in.
If you have Android 10 or later, you have Teams installed on your phone, but you are not logged into Teams.
Okay.
If you try to dial 911, it hard locks your phone.
That's awesome. It's not awesome. That's terrible. Because
terrible.
The last thing you need to have happen when you're in the middle of an emergency is your stupid computer in your pocket to flake out on you when all you're trying to do is get help.
Gee, can you guess how they figured this out?
Someone tried to dial 911, I'm sure, and couldn't.
Yeah.
Did someone die? I hope no one died.
No. So what happened was this was a Reddit thread apparently.
Yeah.
They attempted to call 911. Their child, I think, or somebody had an emergency issue. They tried to call 911 because emergency.
Yeah.
Dialed 911 and the phone immediately locked.
Wow.
So they went and found that they had a landline. They must have been living in like 1990 or
Who
something.
has a landline anymore?
Exactly.
This guy, and thank God.
Yep, they had a landline, so they called on the landline to 911 and got everything taken care of. According to what I read earlier, it's not in this article, but according to what I read earlier, the 911 call did not go through. However, the E911 data did go to 911. So I guess the call center got a attempted 911 call from this address.
So help may have come, but it would have been help entirely out of context. It would have been
out of context.
Like the cops show up, right?
It was also an apartment building.
Oh, right.
So that would have not been very helpful at all.
I mean, it may have been, but not helpful in a good way. Like it would have been,
not
hey,
in a timely manner.
The cops are here. If they happen across the emergency, then great, help has come. But there's a lot of if there, right?
Right.
So
yeah, so I guess somebody else in the thread was like, "Oh, that's interesting," and then recreated it.
Yeah.
And then Google saw that and went, yeah, we should fix that like yesterday because
that's a big deal."
I mean, Google has a lot of money, but I don't know if we have that much money.
Yeah. Right. Right.
So they jumped on this like wildfire.
Now, is it a Google problem or is it a Teams problem? Because I thought I read that Microsoft was fixing the problem. They both are.
Both Microsoft is fixing it and Google is fixing it. Okay. So there is a Teams update that may be out already or was coming out imminently.
Okay.
That is supposed to resolve this problem. But there was also a note. Again, this was the other. If I can remember where the other article was, I'll post it. But the article that I read that said that Google has an update that will be out in January that will address the root of the issue.
Okay. Cool. So yeah, if you have an Android device and you have Teams installed, and I can see this as especially in today's world, right, where we're all doing video conference like as a routine part of our lives. Like Girl Scout meetings are now in Zoom or something. I can imagine Teams being installed on devices that maybe they wouldn't have been, and you might not be logged in because you don't use it professionally. You're just like, oh, I need to join this thing so I can share Christmas presents with Grandma, and now all of a sudden you can't dial 911. And how many people do that? Like you don't dial that frequently. God, I hope you don't dial that frequently. And then when you really need it, it doesn't work, and you have no idea why because you're not a tech person. You just dialed 911, it didn't work. Your phone locked up, and you're like, what? Now what do I do? Yeah, that's a pretty bad place to be. So
yeah. It got me thinking, like, how would I ever test if I was dialing 911? Because you're not supposed to call it unless it's an emergency,
right?
Because then you can get in trouble. Like, how do you test this? Interruption. Small child opens the door, asks for thing.
No, that was my wife. Just a quick update. So
okay. Your wife is not a small child?
Well, I mean, she's much smaller than she was.
Okay.
I mean, I don't want to go into too many details, but
in my defense, your video is small and choppy, and it was dark.
And you probably haven't seen her in person in like 2 years, 3 years.
Yeah, it's been a while.
You might not recognize her. Anyway, so that was our last news article.
You got a new wife?
Yeah, right. I mean, kinda. Same person. Anyway. Right, so, public service announcement. If you have an Android device and you have Teams and you're not logged into it, uninstall Teams until further notice. If I see a notice of this being fixed, I'll be sure to share it, but you probably want to check, you probably want to watch it yourself if you're the sort of person who needs to have Teams installed and not logged in. I feel like you're probably a small edge case. But...
honestly, I mean, my recommendation would be if this is a phone that you rely on, like if this is your, oh my God, I have an emergency phone, I don't care if you're logged into Teams or not, uninstall Teams.
Yeah. Yeah.
I get that you have to have it for work, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
Like, I don't know. Being alive is better than
Yeah,
having
right.
Teams installed on my phone.
I can just imagine, like, you're in the middle of an emergency. Oh crap! I have to uninstall Teams quick. You know what I mean? Like, that's crazy, just crazy. We have actually a cheap. In fact, it's free. I pay for 911 service on it, and that's it. We have a VoIP line that goes through Google Voice, which goes to a physical phone. It's a cordless phone, but still, and it sits in the living room specifically so that if someone in the house needs to dial 911 and they don't have a smartphone on them, they can pick it up and dial it. Right now, hopefully we never have to, and hopefully it works when we do, because of all the things I just listed, all the stuff that's cobbled together to make that work. But it's basically like a little bit of peace of mind in case like the kids have to dial 911 or something. So
Yeah, and just don't throw out old phones. Old phones without SIM cards by law have to be able to dial 911.
oh, there you go. So just have a smartphone sitting around that doesn't have a SIM card in it. You can still dial 911. That's cool. Does that work when mobile too?
Yes. Yeah. Any. Yes.
Oh,
All.
that's cool.
It's my understanding is that it looked like federal law. Like if you if your like as long as there's a tower that's active on the frequency that so like the old bag phones from forever ago might not be able to call 911 anymore because there's no cell towers for them anymore.
Right.
But up until those cell towers disappeared, like I had an old bag phone, like you could pick that up and dial 911 on it and it worked.
Wow. Good. I mean, that's like a good law, I think. There's probably some phone company or some cell provider somewhere that's like, God, we still have to support these stupid things for how long?
Well, it's just.
But lives are on the line.
Right?
Okay.
Depending on how they I haven't done any wireless telephony stuff, but depending on how they architected the whole system, all you really need is like you have an identifier of the phone.
Yeah.
And a location on the phone.
Yeah.
And it called 911. I should be able to get you to that person that dialed 911.
Yeah, and it's not like I mean, I guess somebody that's creative enough could find a way to creatively use that to make an actual phone call that would circumvent, all these things that have been put in place so that you could dial 911. But for the large majority of people, that's simply so that they can reach out in an emergency, and that's a good thing. Like, phone companies aren't going to lose money over someone had to dial out in an emergency, I would think. All right. I think we've belabored that point enough, and that's all the news we had for tonight.
Yep, that's it. No more news.
So this has been fun. We've now hit at least 2 hours. Thank you, folks, for hanging out. If you're still on the stream, there's still 11 of you, according to the stream counter here. That's pretty cool. Thanks for hanging out. That's more than we usually get for any show. And there's 11 of you that hung out for the whole show. So I guess we can thank Ed for broadcasting our message enough. So I hope you guys stick around and check out the show next time we're here. If you're new viewers, that's awesome. If you are new and you want to be able to check us out, we do this shindig roughly the second and fourth Thursday of every month. Obviously, November and December are sometimes tough for that because the second Thursday of both of those months fall right around some very popular holidays. Like, we didn't record on Thanksgiving Day.
Holidays?
There's holidays, believe it or not.
Does that mean I get a day off of work or something?
But normally, the second and fourth Thursday of the month, you can check us out live, or you can go download the show afterward. We'll release it, as a usual podcast. And you can watch us on Twitch or YouTube, youtube.com/IronSysAdminPodcast or twitch.tv/IronSysAdminPodcast. You can also find all the other ways that you can subscribe or watch the show on IronSysAdmin.com. You can subscribe to us in all the usual ways that you would subscribe to a podcast. If you find a place that you wish we were and we aren't, let me know, and we'll find a way to get there. And, if you want to support the show, Patreon or that Teespring place, you can buy a t-shirt. T-shirts are awesome. Everybody loves t-shirts. They're even black. Everyone loves black t-shirts. Hackers love black t-shirts, right? I mean, you're wearing a black hoodie.
Should we start listing?
I'm wearing a
black
black
listing
t-shirt.
our Amazon wish lists?
What, so people can buy us things?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing that happens, isn't it?
Yeah, sure. Let's do that. All right, folks, this has been a fun show. Go check out the Holiday Hack. If you're new to the show, like I said, be sure to check us out. See if you like any of the other shows, and hang around if you like us. Let us know. If you got any feedback, we love feedback, even the negative stuff. Don't leave us negative feedback. Leave us all positive feedback. We like the positive stuff.
We enjoy the negative feedback. It's, just what we do with it is sometimes not.
Yeah. Well, we've only had the one. And we read that.
Yeah.
And I think you guys made Marc cry over it. He still remembers it.
And then we made fun of the feedback, I think. So
We might have. We might have. I don't remember. Just the one. All right, folks. We can ramble about feedback, or we can end the show. Thank you guys for watching. Jason, you got any final thoughts you want to share before we end?
No, I've run out of thoughts for the day.
You've run out of thoughts for the day. Are you out of whiskey too?
It was bourbon, but
Bourbon?
yes.
You out of bourbon? I'm out of beer. I only had the one because I was too busy talking.
Technically, bourbon is whiskey, but
Whiskey bourbon? Bourbon whiskey?
but bespoken spirits. If you want to taste some of the best bourbon I think I've ever had, bespoken spirits. This stuff is
Bespoken
amazing.
spirits. I haven't had an old fashioned in a while. I'm gonna have to have one. I think I even still have some rye out there.
They have a rye that when you mix it to make an old fashioned, it's to die for. It is amazing. It's so good.
I don't really want to die. Although I'm not on an Android phone
mean-
anymore, so maybe I would just be able to call 911 if I felt like I was going
I'm
to.
sorry, who am I talking to? I thought this was Nate. I'm confused.
Although in true fashion, it's a hand-me-down iPhone. This was my wife's.
Oh.
That's why it's purple.
I judge you based on the color of your phone.
I have a purple iPhone. Anyway, folks, it's been fun. I think we're going to call it a night. So thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Thanks for doing whatever the heck it is that you're doing. I'm just rambling so I can find the button that says the show's over. And I found it. So see you guys next time. Thanks.
Night.